Chris, you're here.
What's up, man? It's been a week.
I know. We thought you might not be here yet. Here
Yeah,
you are.
well, yeah. I mean, I guess we're recording earlier than we usually do instead of the end of the week. I mean, no one's going to know. Never mind.
Yeah, I set it to an unlisted broadcast because of the mass number of 0 people that get notified when we do this.
Yeah, well, when you're syndicating it through an actual podcast feed, the YouTube channel probably doesn't get near as much traffic or whatever. So,
Yeah.
for anybody that doesn't know, we actually stream this live on Google Hangouts or YouTube Live or whatever Google decided to call it this week. We use that, and so you can watch us in video form. But it's really not that
boring.
But yeah, I was gonna say it's not that interesting. We need to get some studio sets and stuff going on.
Yeah, man. Money is just an object.
Yeah, we just need, someone to donate 10 grand so we can get some cameras and lighting and
then we wouldn't have fun anymore.
Yeah. It'd be cool though. Like we could do like Joe Rogan's podcast. That's a good one.
Just record for 23 hours a day and
yeah, live stream your whole life.
One of my best friends, every time you talk to him, not every time, that's an exaggeration, but you'll talk to him and you'll be talking about something. He'll be like, well, on Joe Rogan, I heard. And you're like, well, what didn't you hear on Joe Rogan?
They talk a lot about all kinds of things. So what's new in programming land? What struggles are you having in programming this week? That's the key. The topic that flows as soon as you learn to code, it's just problems from there on out.
I haven't had too many problems this week. Today, I've been fighting cache invalidation.
Okay. Yeah, that's not an easy one.
Yeah, I was having an issue where I was trying to use. So, like in Rails, you can just say cache and then give it like an active record object. And it'll look for, I assume it's ID and it's updated at.
Yeah, I believe so.
But you can also open up an array and like give it multiple values. And when you do that, I think it stops doing that. And I didn't realize that. So I think it was just caching on the ID. So it like never changed. So I was in staging testing it, like ready to go to production. And it wouldn't like bust the cache. And I was like, no. So I've been working around that.
Luckily, you caught it on staging.
Yeah. And I didn't catch it in development, which was weird. But I wasn't using, I don't know if this matters. This is just, I was literally trying to figure this out like 20 minutes ago. So it's fresh in my mind. But like, I just use, there's like a rake task you can run. It's like Rails dev cache, and it just flips caching on and off in development.
Yeah.
And it uses, I think it uses memory store. But we use Redis for production. So I was like, well, maybe there's a problem like not using Redis locally. And sure enough, when I turned Redis on locally, the cache would not bust. And that's was like, oh, okay, this is actually like, this is a problem. So
that certainly seems like something you wouldn't expect, like the difference between the two, not being consistent. It seems simple enough that you would imagine they would work the same. It's kind of weird.
Yeah, I totally I don't know, maybe I have a setup configuration wrong somewhere, but I could be completely wrong on this. I know all I know about caching I've learned in the last 2 weeks. So,
well, this is one of those points. If they are different, it points out just how important it is to use, as much of the same stuff as what will happen in production and development. Using Redis or whatever, like definitely all those things are important. Maybe operating system doesn't matter as much, but definitely your services you're using and whatever make a big difference. So you guys are using Redis for caching instead of like memcached?
Yeah, at least to get started. So
That's fair enough. That's what pretty much all my Hatchbox stuff is. Like, just use Redis because you're already going to run it for Sidekick or whatever, Action Cable. So, like, it's another thing to manage if you have to also manage memcached. Another thing that could crash, at least with Redis, like, you're going to make sure it's up and know it's up because everything uses it. And it's all namespaced well enough that it's fine.
yeah. So we're actually, I think we have 2 separate Redis instances. So we're actually splitting out like our background jobs, and then I think we already do some like the term is low level caching. So we have Redis for that. So we're just gonna tie into that one. But yeah, it's been fun. I don't know if I mentioned this last week or I'd gotten to that point last week, but some like initial testing, I've been able to improve response times like quite a bit.
That's a scientific measurement for it, right?
That's scientific. Somewhere between quite a bit and a whole lot.
That sounds good then. Yeah.
It's the big O of caching.
Yeah. The big
Yeah. Yeah. I've got it. I'm trying to think of the actual numbers off the top of my head. It was some odd like maybe 1100 milliseconds. So quite an improvement.
For 1100 milliseconds for what?
rendering a view, like the whole response time.
Oh dang, that's slow.
So
yeah. So that'll be important then, it sounds like, if it's a fairly slow view, I'd imagine.
Yeah, and it's just a test. It's like in a
Oh, okay. Like simulating.
Yeah. Sorry, this is like the whole thing is an experiment. Like
okay.
I'm calling it a test because it's like a small part of the app, and then if this goes well, we'll look for other places we can use it.
Yeah, well, that makes a huge difference long term, and then it's good for SEO and stuff too, because faster your site responds, the better Google likes that, as you would expect. So users like it better too, of course.
Yeah. So that's been fun. I'm excited to get that out the door.
Yeah.
I'm redoing my blog.
Tell me more about that. What are you using for your blog?
So I've been an avid WordPress blogger for a long time.
Okay.
I don't really have many of the frustrations and complaints that a lot of people have about WordPress. Or maybe it's more fair to say that I do have those, but the benefits outweigh like the problem.
Sure.
So I've been wanting to kind of build my own site for a while. I used a Genesis theme, and it was like I had it real minimal. There's not a lot of stuff on my website. And then I was like, okay, I'm going to go do this. And so like I had to fire up WordPress locally, which meant like installing MySQL and PHP, and then just copying the whole site down. And then I don't know if you've ever built a WordPress theme, but like there can be a lot of moving parts. And I was just like, I don't want to do this anymore. And I started kind of just thinking about it and really like, and I didn't even do that much hunting. Like a lot of people are doing or a fair number of people are using Hugo now, the static site generator built in Go. There's Gatsby for like JavaScript. And I was like, I just want to be plain and use Jekyll. And like, so yeah, yesterday I started firing up a Jekyll install. Somebody had this fantastic little tool or it's actually a WordPress plugin that will export all your posts into Markdown, like for Jekyll.
I've used that before. Yeah.
Yeah. So I did that, and I've just been kind of tweaking with it. I know like one of the complaints about Jekyll is like the bigger your site gets, the slower it gets to like compile or to generate. But like, I don't know. It doesn't really matter too much to me. I'll update it like once a week. So
yeah, it's your blog. It's not your company's website, with thousands and thousands and thousands of pages.
Yeah. And like, I don't know, I'm just excited. I'm excited to have a static site. I'm excited to actually try and write more. And then one thing I did is I'm actually kind of trying to move away from blog into like actual website. So I've heard a couple of people talk about this, mostly Ian Landsman and Adam OAuth'n, and they talk about, and I'm sure other people talk about how essentially like really the stuff like I'm writing is stuff I want to be more timeless, and it's not really like, oh, this is a thing that I want to talk about today, if that makes sense. Like it's usually more kind of tutorial based. And so when you go to my website and like it's just a list in like ordered by date of like different things I've talked about, I don't know. It didn't really seem like a good fit. So I've actually divvied it up into sections. So I have like Rails tips, things I talk about Ruby. I've talked about Hanami before, so I put that in there. And then at the bottom, I still have blog posts because there are some things that are like just my thoughts, which are more of a blog. So
I like that idea. That's where I started when I started Go Rails. It was my personal blog. I was just writing tutorials, and it was some tutorials, but it was also like I ran into a bug that I couldn't fix within like 6 hours of Googling and all this stuff. So then I was like, okay, I'll just write a blog post about that error and how I solved it and why and whatever. And over time, I was like, this is such a weird mix of like, here's some ideas, here's some errors, here's some how to deploy Rails. And so then I was like, you know what? I'm just going to take all this like Rails content, buy a new domain, and throw it all up there, and just keep my notes public for what I'm working on. And that became Go Rails. And then it made sense to make screencasts and make a business out of it. But yeah, it came from the same thing of like, look, I'm going to write this tutorial, but I'm going to keep updating it because it's my notes. So they're having dates on this stuff doesn't really make sense because it's always going to be accurate as long as I keep updating. So yeah, I like that idea. I think that's I think it's the right way to treat a lot of that content that's not just your ideas and kind of blog thoughts or whatever. It's a good thing. I use Jekyll as well. It's awesome. I love it. Reminded me as you're mentioning it, my first job out of college, I got working at a place called the Genome Institute in St. Louis in WashU, the university. And we did like cancer research and stuff. And so we had this big pipeline of software that they would sequence like sample of cancer or whatever, and then we'd have this pipeline of software that they'd run all the information through and the data and whatever, and there was all like this giant Perl mess. It was a lot of stuff at the time. It was just kind of like a lot of Perl, a lot of old school, like people who were working on it worked on it for a very long time, so it was hard for somebody new like me to, number one, learn Perl, but number two, like, just understand everything that was going on. It was a lot. And I ended up actually working on, so we had documentation for all these little tools and things we made in this big Git repository. And so my job ended up being taking Jekyll and then going through this Git repository and pulling all the documentation out of the code and then building a Jekyll website dynamically and then rendering like navigation for all the like classes and documentation and methods or whatever else that was in there. So it was really fun. And I did that for a couple months, just like this giant Git repo building websites. And so I had these like templates for Jekyll that I had built. So then, it would go through the Git repo and fill out the template. And then that would be rendering. It would be like metaprogramming Jekyll code basically, because I had to dynamically insert stuff into actual Jekyll things and then run Jekyll to export it and upload it to, the production site. So it was pretty cool. It was way back when. That was like 2011. So That was a long time ago in Jekyll years.
Yeah. I've used Jekyll just a small handful of times. My dog's barking and my child will wake up soon. Sorry, everyone. I've used it a small handful of times, and I don't know. I don't need I don't need the speed. I don't need like the flash, or the shininess of the new things. Like Jekyll works fine, and there's a ton of tutorials on little things I want to do. So
yeah, and if it's a website that you're going to change once in a while, who cares how fast it takes to compile that? You can run it on a CI, compile it, and then upload it to your server. All I do is I have a bash script that I wrote that I just call deploy.sh, and it just runs Jekyll and then rsyncs it over to my server, and it's done. That's it. Nothing to it. And so then, when I want to deploy it, that's it. 2-line bash script or whatever it is, and we're done. So I've just liked the simplicity of it, and then it's like the fastest website you could possibly get at that point because it's just static.
Yeah, the other thing I'm trying to do is minimize, I guess, the dependencies on the site. So I've been trying to find a way to do analytics without bringing any third-party JavaScript in, which I don't think is possible, without doing server log based stuff.
Yeah, you could analyze your logs, but that would be about the only other option.
Yeah, so I think that'll be my one exception.
The other thing is if you do it server side, it won't be as accurate as client side because if the browser caches a page and you view that page several times, it may not even make a request to the server or whatever. So you might miss out on some actual numbers there, but it'd probably still be close enough or whatever. So
yeah, and my design is so basic. It's 60 lines of CSS, and there is no bootstrap or anything like that. So
yeah, that's how mine was. It's totally custom and easy, really nice to just, I don't know, have simple stuff. But there are some times when I'm like, man, I wish I just had the Tailwind classes so that I could just skip through some of this responsive crap.
Yeah, no, I hear you. Tailwind, I did consider. But yeah, so that's been a little pet project I've been working on. And then I guess the only other thing is I don't know if you saw the email because we haven't talked about it. I changed the remote Ruby meetup frequency.
I saw that. Yeah, I saw you post that today.
Yeah, it's been really hard trying to get people speakers once a month. And it's even harder when you have to throw together something. And I don't know, I feel like it kind of loses my excitement and interest for it, and then it's not really exciting and interesting for the other people. So I figure if I just do it 4 times a year, maybe I can put all my effort that I'm using right now trying to gather talks and people into just putting 4 really good ones together every year. So we'll see.
Yeah, it seems like a good thing. Plus, it's not like you have a Ruby conference or anything that you're dealing with on the side.
Yeah, we're in crunch mode for Southeast Ruby.
This is what, 3 weeks away, something like that. 4 weeks maybe.
Yeah, today is July 11th. It's August 2nd. So yeah, we're close.
Yeah, well, as I'm getting back from vacation, I will just have to pack up again and head down and visit you. So that would be good. I'm looking forward to it. I had a lot of fun last year. Looks like a few more Go Rails people are going to be there. A couple of them mentioned they were going, so I'm excited about that. It'll be fun. How's the last crunch time going? What things are having never organized a conference before? What are the things that you're dealing with?
So the thing that we work on the most the last month is we have a better idea of numbers of people coming.
Yeah.
So that's when we actually start like ordering food, like planning parties, things like that. Ordering t-shirts, lanyards. So all that is like getting ready to go.
You pretty much have to do that last minute, I guess.
Yeah. Like, because we have pretty much unlimited number of spots. And so like if I had like 200 spots and then we sold 200 tickets, like I could go ahead and do all that stuff because like we'd be technically sold out.
Yeah, right.
But I can't do that. So, but yeah.
You don't have a limit on that.
Yeah.
Yeah, makes sense. Food and drinks and all that stuff and snacks, that's a lot of things that could be really overshot, really undershot, like vastly different costs or whatever. So makes sense. You don't have to worry about anybody's schedules or anything, like, you know, anybody dropping out or anything last minute. Does that happen much?
Usually if they do, they give their ticket to someone else or sell it. So
I meant, what about like with speakers?
Oh, sorry. We have waitlisted speakers in the event that does happen.
Yeah.
We have a few, and then we offer free tickets to the conference in case like someone actually like drops out like day of. Which last year luckily did not happen, and fingers crossed doesn't have to happen again this year. But
yeah.
But yeah, it's fun. I'm really excited to get to Nashville and see everyone and conference with everyone. So the other thing is and we haven't even announced this like publicly yet. Maybe we will before this drops, but there's a pre-conference party actually being put on by Ramsey Solutions.
Okay.
And we had chatted about this. I guess this will be the first time, you know, for sure. But I think we're talking about actually recording this podcast live that night. So
yeah, we'll have to make sure we are all prepared.
We'll actually have to like talk before we click start recording.
Right. It'll be not in person, or well, it will be in person, unlike normal, which is not in person, which will be fun.
Yeah, I'm excited about it. It'll be cool to do it in person. So.
The night before?
Yeah, so that'll be Wednesday, August 1st. And then if you're coming to the conference August 2nd, there's an after party. And
speaking of, I don't remember if I booked a hotel yet or an Airbnb yet, so I'm going to have to double check on that.
You should stay till Saturday this year.
Yeah, I should. We'll probably do that. Just make another week out of vacation, basically.
Friday night is when I'm like, okay, it's done. Let's go have a good time.
Yeah. I had a Santa's Pub.
Yeah, Santa's Pub. A double wide trailer that is Christmas themed year round. Also a karaoke bar in Nashville. My favorite place in the whole world.
I love it. It's so great.
They sell hot dogs, and like they got like a big old pail of nacho cheese outside. It's like a little fold up table, and all the prices are like handwritten.
Man, that sounds great. Because I didn't get to make it last year. You guys went, didn't you? After
I didn't. I actually didn't make it out last year, but a crew of people did go out.
Okay. Yeah, because I think I had to pack up and leave after pretty much that day or something. So,
out of all the conference tips I've ever gotten, not talking about organizing, just attending, I think it was one of the Ruby or Rails confs. My friend Nick Means said the best hangouts happen the last night. Like after like certain people, like some people started to leave, like everybody's over with the conference. And so my rule of thumb has always been stay the extra night. Like,
yeah, that's a great point. I've had that experience too. Like one of my favorite conferences I ever went to was Ruby on Rails in Bend, Oregon. And like one of my friends and I flew out there to Portland, rented a car, drove through the mountains, and like the semi trucks and everybody else pulled over to put chains on their car. and we didn't have chains. We were in this rental car. We were just like, screw it. We'll just drive through the mountains and all the snow and hope we get there. And it took forever to drive through there, and we finally made it. And then the conference, they had like a bar that opened at like 9 a.m. So the first day, everybody's kind of like quiet and just, getting used to the conference and everything. And then the next day, it was like everybody started drinking at 9 a.m. and just became, just really, everybody was just having a really good time. And like the last conference talk, somebody brought up like 6 beers for the speaker to finish before their talk was done. And like it was just a blast. So that one was one of them where it was like, the first day of the conference, everybody gets to like, catch up, and they're all just kind of like not as comfortable. But then the second day and after that ends up just being like really good and friends hanging out and everything. So I think the post, second day of the conference meetup or afterwards and the next day after that even is probably even better because, just everybody's then, had some time to regroup and get back together and stuff. So it's a lot of fun, but I'm going to have to definitely make sure I get a place booked for that week because I don't think I did. So we'll see you shortly then in person, which will be fun.
Excited. So enough about me. What's going on with you? Getting ready for vacation?
Yeah, mostly just, record a few episodes of Go Rails ahead of time so I can publish those while I'm on the road. I'm doing a bunch of support for Hatchbox and stuff, which has been good. Just ironing out. I mean, turns out, if you build your own Heroku, it's pretty hard. And if you don't control the servers like they do, it's even harder than what they do in some cases, I'm sure. So it's just been like a long process, and it's so heavily dependent upon background jobs that it makes the front end being consistent with the state of stuff in real time pretty hard. And so I like sort of cheated and mostly use turbolinks or action cable. Like when a status of something changes, then I'll just like refresh the page with turbolinks, and that would make any changes come to life. The unfortunate part about that is that means that your UI can be a little stale if that action cable message didn't come through or whatever. And so I've got I don't know, when I come back, I've got my work cut out for me because the whole UI kind of needs a rewrite, probably entirely. And I'd like to probably also get off of Bootstrap 4 and move to Tailwind because it's going to start needing some design love from a designer. So hoping that you can make all those changes when I get back. But for now, it's just kind of ironing out a bunch of the little odds and ends that have been frustrating for a while, and then make the big changes when I get back. But yeah, I had fun today, though. I was recording an episode for a few weeks from now, and actually ended up resurfacing a little open source project that I did like 3 years ago, I guess. And I've got a couple of these that I did a few years ago. One of them, not the one I use today, but it's called, I don't even know if the site is up and running right now, but it was called OAuth'able or something. And I went through and downloaded every single OmniAuth gem I could possibly find and installed it into one Rails app. And there were so many dependencies. So like there's, all of these are using OAuth of some version, and then they use a different version of OmniAuth underlying. And so then those were not compatible and all this crap. But the big thing that I was trying to do with this site was, sometimes you want to just build an app that talks to Twitter's API, but you don't need your Rails app to go through and have login with Twitter and all that crap just to get an API key. You want to just test working with the API. So I actually built the site so that it would have like 70 some OmniAuth integrations you would drop in your API keys and it would dynamically insert them. Because OmniAuth normally is hard coded. So I set it up so you could dynamically insert them into the process. And then you could get an API token back and test, like, okay, if I use these scopes, do I have the correct access and all that. So it was a fun little project. But around that time, I also did a webhook one where it just sits there and you get a URL and you can plug it in anywhere for the webhook URL. And so the intention of that was to build the site to record it so you could then, like for Stripe, they send a lot of webhooks over. They have a way to view the JSON that it's posted to you. Pretty much no other site that makes webhooks has that. So you need to store your Rails log so you can repeat those things or whatever. And so I built the site so it would just store them for you. And then you could then post them to your app yourself. And I was going to build a tool to let you replay them just for testing and all that. So I was actually working on an episode on sending webhooks today. And then I was like, oh yeah, I think I built a website to like just store these webhooks, because I was making the episode on sending, because I've done episodes on receiving webhooks, but not sending before. So ended up digging up this old open source project. And turns out, I think Postgres on the server had shut down for some reason. And so it didn't work. And then just upgraded the packages and it was back up and running. So it was kind of funny. But had I probably deployed that with Hatchbox at the time, then it might still be running. But I'm going to have to move it over to another server and have Hatchbox manage it now. So, yeah, it was kind of fun digging up an old open source project like that, and I was like, this is actually really useful.
Yeah. Speaking of Hatchbox again, you had an article written about Hatchbox.
Yeah, it was kind of cool. It was posted on like Lifehacker and whatever their Kinja. It was like some blogging platform, I guess they got. It was great. It was good to see people using it. I got a referral. One of your coworkers building Rewardful, Kyle. He got me set up with referral program for Hatchbox, which is nice. So it's good to see that being used. I think the guy that posted the article has got his Rewardful link in there, so it's cool to see that. I made the mistake and should warn everybody that if you build two apps, just use separate Stripe accounts. Just do that. If you have two separate apps, even if it's still the same business, like two separate Stripe accounts can deposit to the same account. It's okay. So I made the mistake of putting GoRails and Hatchbox on the same Stripe account. And, credit card failures, you send a link or an email with a link to update your credit card. Well, they all point to GoRails.com because they don't know that they're for a different app or different product. And so then things are just kind of a pain to have both things on the same Stripe account. So sometime soon, well, I guess after vacation, I'll have to migrate everybody's Stripe customer and subscription stuff over to another account. Luckily, it sounds like Stripe's support will do the migration of customers for you. And then I believe what you can do is you can't take the subscriptions over. So you cancel all the existing subscriptions and then you create all new subscriptions with a free trial that happens to end on the day their subscription would renew on the other account. And so I think you can sort of have a seamless transition, but it was kind of a nightmare. And I was like, that's ridiculous. So yeah, kind of awful. Not really sure, how the receipt webhooks and stuff are going to work out, but that's going to be not a fun migration and should have been smarter ahead of time.
Well, cool. Anything else you want to chat about, or?
No, I probably should, start packing for vacation tomorrow. Yeah, slacking, doing the usual.
I feel you. Well, cool. Well, enjoy your next week off. Maybe we'll see you the week after. If not, see you the week after that.
Yeah, I'll be gone for 2 weeks. So maybe the week after that, because it's kind of a not too regular weeks. It's kind of starts in the middle. So yeah, might see you in 2 weeks. Definitely we'll see you at the conference. There was something I was going to mention about that. The videos for that. Will that be recorded? The conference talks and everything?
Yes, and unlike last year, which I'm still posting, I posted my first one, and
I was going to say, I thought I saw that on YouTube recently that you posted.
Just slowly putting it on there and hoping people don't judge me for how long it takes me to do things. Yeah, so we'll be recording those and releasing those hopefully a lot sooner than a year later. So
yeah, well, I'll remind you to do that or something. So. Publicly shame you until you do it. Maybe that's what I'll do.
Fair enough.
It'll be like, it's been almost a year and there's a new conference and he still hasn't posted the videos from the last one.
From 2017.
Yeah.
2019.
All right, man. Good chatting. We will catch you guys in the next episode then.
See ya.